The San Jose Sharks announced the hiring of Ryan Warsofsky, the 11th coach in franchise history.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesday on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch this on YouTube as well. And the Sharks, the last team without a coach, they finally make their decision, hiring Ryan Warsofsky, the assistant head coach for the past 2 seasons with the Sharks. So we're going to discuss my thoughts on it, why I love this hire, what they're getting, and what I think are some of Warsofsky's biggest challenges. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dream of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Well, now you can with the Ultimate Hockey GM. It's completely free, and Locked On listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo Locked On NHL in the game store. Download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty today. For Game of Thrones fans, your dynasty. So Ryan Warsofsky, we'll get into like what they're getting and stuff with him, but I just want to kind of give my thoughts on this. And I, even from the beginning, as soon as they, kind of moved on from David Quinn, I kind of pegged Warsofsky to be the guy because I think he is exactly what the Sharks need right now. And that is a guy who knows how to work with younger players, knows how to develop, and knows how to blend older and younger players. And I think talking to Warsofsky, super sharp dude, very personal with people. I think Warsofsky is going to be a great hire for the Sharks, and we'll see how he builds his staff. He's going to have his introductory press conference on Monday, the 17th. So we'll have more on that next week, and kind of, the sound bites and everything that you can kind of take away from it. But I know it was a lot of fans were hoping for Marco Sturm. Maybe they were looking for a fresh voice, whatever it is. And there's some fans like, why are you hiring a guy who was in charge of the defense that was one of the worst defenses we've ever seen? And I'm just going to say, look at the roster, right? Trying to make chicken salad out of chicken poop last year. This team tanked, right? Like we're all adults here. We know this team tanked. They tanked hard and they got rewarded for it. So I think though with Warsofsky, getting a guy who can, he's going to have his lumps becoming an NHL head coach for the first time. And that's fine, right? He's been a head coach in other places, and we'll go through his resume here in a second. But I love this hire. I think he's going to grow. He's a perfect guy to grow with these guys, right? You're going to have Will Smith. You're going to have Macklin Celebrini. You have Henry Thrun, like Ty Amberson, Shakir Mukhamadolan. There's a ton of guys here who are going to be either playing their first or second season in NHL. And all these guys, I think, can kind of grow together. But I feel like Warsofsky, when the Sharks hired him as their assistant, remember, he interviewed for the head coaching job 2 years ago. And they liked him so much, they hired him as the assistant coach. And I think he's just spent the last 2 years preparing for this job here, right? David Quinn was kind of basically holding the seat down for him until they felt Warsofsky was ready. And I know, there's some people like, why didn't you just hire him right away? Good for Mike Greer and company to spread a wide net, just see what's out there, right? Go and actually, make sure you're getting the right guy, because this hire is super important, especially with the talent coming in. So I think for all parties, I think everybody did right by this, right? You took your time making sure you got the right guy. And we're seeing coaching staffs getting kind of filled up right now, but there's still plenty of valuable coaches out there, and I'm sure Warsofsky is going to be able to put together. We'll talk about that here in a little bit later, but there's still plenty of guys out there. It's not like they're all the there's empty chairs here when it comes to putting together a staff. But again, a guy who has developed, he's won basically everywhere he's gone, and I think his ability to blend young players with veteran players and connect to those players, I think is going to be huge. So just really quickly kind of going through Warsofsky's resume here. So grew up playing defense, played defense at Curry College, played a little bit of professionals over in the Netherlands. Anyway, after he was done, was Warren A when he was at school. Then was assistant coach for his alma mater at Curry College. Then he got hired with the South Carolina Stingrays in the ECHL, and he was there from 2013 to 2018. So he's there for 5 years, where he grew from the assistant coach to the head coach / director of hockey operations during his time there. Took them to the Kelly Cup, wasn't able to win it, but took a team on a deep playoff run. From there, he went over, made the jump to the AHL with the Charlotte Checkers, who, if I recall correctly, were part of, at that time, I think they were part of the Carolina Hurricanes organization. Assistant coach there for 1 year, and then took the head coaching job, and then got moved to the Chicago Wolves. I believe that's when they moved, if I recall correctly, that's when Chicago became the AHL affiliate for Carolina, and became the head coach there. He won. So as an assistant coach, he won the Calder Cup, which is the AHL championship, and then turned around and won it again as the head coach in the 2021 2022 season, excuse me, where he won the championship there, and then was hired on as the Sharks assistant coach, where he spent the last 2 seasons. Was part of David Quinn's staff that coached the World Championships a couple years ago. And this is a guy who's been a coach, for a long time now. I mean, I know it's not as much NHL, but he's been a coach for 12 seasons this year in some form or another, and he's continued to grow and develop people, win, which is important, right? And I think I love this hire. I think it is the perfect hire for the Sharks, to be honest. I'm super ecstatic about hiring Ryan Warsofsky, because I think what he brings to the table is going to be perfect for what the Sharks need right now. So yeah, he's this, again, a lot of questions. We'll look at what some of his big challenges and what type of staff I think he needs to maybe try to put together here. But I think, though, for the Sharks, getting a new voice in there, getting a guy who I think can relate to a younger roster, right? We know how young this roster is. I think is going to be a huge part of kind of building up this next great team. And again, I know last year numbers stick out with how bad this team was, but again, this roster was horrible. It was set up to fail on purpose. But going back, right, wasn't that long ago that Ryan Warsofsky was the assistant coach of the defense when Erik Karlsson put up 101 points and won the Norris Trophy. I mean, he gets credit for that, right? He did do that. So not that I'm saying I think any of the players on the Sharks are Erik Karlsson, but with actual talent on the team, I think he has. There is a runway for this team to get better with more talent infused in it. So, if we're going to peg Warsofsky with the problems from last year, you also have to look at what happened when he had more talent. And the Sharks defense 2 years ago was okay-ish. They scored a bunch of points, of course, with Erik Karlsson leading the way. And the penalty kill was really good 2 years ago when that he led. Well, they were the 8th best unit 2 years ago. So I'm not going to try to, hold too much of last year against them, because this team was set up to try to go get the first pick in the draft, which they did. And now we have Macklin Celebrini. So do you want Macklin Celebrini, or do you want a power or a penalty kill unit that was like maybe a little bit better? So I kind of want Macklin Celebrini. So we're going to talk about more what they're getting, kind of what he's really known for. We got a clip from 2 years ago that I'm going to be playing here in just a minute. So, we'll get to that here in just 1 minute. Hey, Locked On Sharks fans, I want to take a moment to bring in one of our partners, the mobile game Ultimate Hockey GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NHL GM and managing your hockey franchise? Do you think you can run the Sharks better than Mike Greer? Well, your dream can come true. This game is most definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the seasons, lead it to glory, hire the right coaches and staff, trade players or draft picks, navigate through free agency and the draft, all in a challenging and realistic game world. As a Sharks fan, you know there's no off season. GMs are constantly making moves at every point of the year to improve their team's chances. That's why I think you're going to love this game. Ultimate Hockey GM is completely free and playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And right now, Locked On Network listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On NHL in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit hockeygm.app or look it up in the App Store. Ultimate Hockey GM. Start your dynasty or dynasty today. All right. So almost 2 years ago, when the Sharks hired Ryan Warsofsky, I had Sarah Avampato, who was then the Locked On Kings host. She lives in Chicago. She covers the Chicago Wolves. She was covering it for the SB Nation Hurricanes site at the time. She's spoken to Ryan Warsofsky bajillion times. Like she knows them pretty well for a kind of a beat writer. So have a clip that from what we talked about 2 years ago, and I asked her, how does he blend? How does he work with these young guys? How does he blend with them? So let's get to that here right now. Warsofsky, I think a lot of times with AHL, especially with the Barracuda, where it's like, we think young guys, right? And especially with the Barracuda, where it's just been a bunch of young guys. But like you look at the Wolves roster, and like you have like Steven Nason, forever Shark Steven Nason. You had, you had a lot of guys who have played NHL games and kind of been older. So how does he work with, of course, really young guys, and then with these veteran guys as well?
It really seemed like he and this group just gelled really well. And I never felt like it was, young guys certainly got their chances to prove themselves. And, there were a couple of younger players who came over at the end of the season after their, seasons in Europe ended. And he just threw them right in there. And, within games, a couple of these young guys never played in North America before are playing on special teams. They're getting big minutes. So he hasn't been afraid to just let guys go out there, see what they have. I haven't, obviously any coach in tight situations is going to shorten their bench. You're not going to see a lot of your grinders in the last 5 minutes of a tight game. But, I didn't really see much of that, like, oh, you made a mistake and then you don't see the ice the rest of the game kind of thing. He definitely buys into the philosophy of the AHL as a developmental league. So they're not going to learn if they're sitting on the bench, not getting a chance to prove that they learned from their mistake. So the NHL may be a little bit different, but, I think in terms of kind of navigating that younger player, older player spectrum, I think that he did really well at kind of playing to each guy's strengths. And so, he didn't tinker too much. Once lines worked, once defense pairings worked, that was it. They juggle things if things started to get a little stale or if one guy was cold, but they had the, enviable problem in the playoffs of having too many defensemen. The franchise, both Hurricanes and Wolves, had gone out and gotten a couple of kind of veteran guys to play on the blue line, and they ended up not playing at all because they liked the six that they had. Everyone did good, and he's like, I can't justify pulling one of these guys out just to put in someone because he's there, you know. And so I think that he definitely is a guy who will give young players the chance to step up and to show themselves and to show what they've got. And I think that he is pretty smart about knowing what his veteran strengths are and kind of putting them in situations that will play to that.
So that's exactly what you want in a coach that's going with a rebuilding team, right? You want your young guys to get an opportunity, earn their opportunity, and then don't feel that you have to play veterans just because they're veterans, right? And yes, I know the NH. Sarah mentioned it. AHL, much more of a developmental league compared to the NHL, but we all know what this team is, right? This Sharks team, it's about setting a foundation. And if you do that well, the winning is going to come later. And that's for basically all the players, right? Especially with how young this roster is projected to be. Again, you're probably going to have two players who are under the age of 19. Happy birthday, Macklin celebrating. You're going to have, William Eklund, who's played a full season. He'll be 22 at the start of the year. You have Henry Thrun, who's 22, 23. This roster is going to be littered with young players, and having a coach who isn't afraid to let these guys make mistakes is exactly what you want right now. Because if they make these mistakes now and they learn from it, when you start playing more meaningful games in the next couple seasons, they're going to have hopefully ironed out those issues, right? And if a guy's constantly making the same mistakes and stuff, then yes, that's he's going to do kind of pull those guys, and I assume try to kind of correct those and hold guys accountable. But I don't think we're going to see oh man, the whatever defense Henry Thrun maybe pinched at the wrong time, screwed up a play there. We're going to go we'll see you next game, basically, type of thing. I think Warsofsky and the Sharks, they all know what this is, right? This is a teaching year for these young guys. Trying to develop some of these habits that are going to lead to winning hockey down the road. And I think Warsofsky, who again, played in college, coached in college, right? Played or coached in the ECHL, coached in the AHL, and now is coaching the NHL. And he's going to have prior relationships with all the guys on the in the locker room. I know he's a defensive coach, but still he's going to have relationships with all these guys here, and I think he's going to know how to utilize these guys to their best of their strengths, because he already knows what their strengths and weaknesses are, and now he's going to be able to put that into effect. So this is why I'm super excited about Warsofsky, is because of his background, his coaching, the way he treats people, and I really, really think we're going to see some young players really start to kind of form these winning habits. And yes, I don't expect the Sharks to win a lot of games this year. They're probably going to be one of the 5 worst teams again next year. Maybe the worst team again next year. But I think you're going to see more winning habits out of them. And I think you're going to start to see that light at the end of the tunnel, right? We keep hearing that the future is teal, the future is teal. I think with Warsofsky at the helm, that's why you're going to see that futures teal continue to just get bigger and brighter with the Sharks. So is Warsofsky the guy to lead them to a cup? Who knows? That's a question for a different day. Right now, we're trying to raise the Titanic, and I think Warsofsky is the guy to help try to raise the Titanic, at least from behind the bench, right? That with a crap ton of awesome talent coming in, but right now we're trying to raise the Titanic off the ocean floor, and we'll worry about winning playoff games and stuff when we get to that phase of the Sharks rebuild. But I think Warsofsky is going to really instill confidence in these young guys. They're not going to be scared to make a mistake because of losing their spot in the lineup or losing, their jobs or losing ice time, because they know like you need to get these mistakes out now and learn through them. That's going to make you a better player in the future. So we'll talk about Warsofsky's biggest challenges this season, and I got two of them. What he's going to have to kind of work through. So we'll get to that here in just one second. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships. This is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With the eBay Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right. Two big challenges for Ryan Warsofsky, right? One, again, we're raising the Titanic right now. I think the first thing is, what type of coaching staff are you able to build? Because we know Warsofsky and his work with the defense, and I think he's going to continue to have his hands on there. But when you become a head coach, it's more of not as much hands-on. You need to kind of rely on your assistants and such. So does he go with maybe a younger staff, maybe guys who are out of the CHL, or maybe guys who are the AHL, or does he go with maybe more of an experienced staff, guys who maybe were former head coaches in the NHL, someone that he can lean on here? So I'm really interested to see what his staff looks like here. I assume this is good news for us Thomas Spears fans. The Sharks goalie coach, if Ryan Warsofsky's here, they're probably going to keep the same goalie coach, because what he has done with his goalie group in such a short amount of time is somewhat close to miraculous. So I assume Spears is going to continue to stay here, but his assistants, right? What does he do there? And I think that's going to be whatever I'm assuming he has a plan. That's probably part of the interview process is, this is what I would kind of do. Maybe he does a little bit of both. Maybe he gets a more experienced guy and a younger guy to be part of his staff here. And, having a younger guy who maybe he's been either in the AHL or he's been, in the WHL or OHL or wherever he's been from, having a guy who's worked with young players like a lot of the Sharks are going to be, where it's, he's used to kind of working with those type of players, but then also having an experienced NHL coach at your side, where when you've lost 4 games in a row and it's the middle of January and the team's just kind of like looking forward to the All-Star break or whatever, someone you can kind of talk to and like bounce some ideas off of, and okay, how do I rally the troops here? What kind of, just an ear to kind of be there. So that's, I think, the big challenge is what type of staff can Ryan Warsofsky put together. And I think the second challenge, of course, is how do you fix the defense again? Minus 150 goal differential last year. And yes, getting some more talent on there. We know the Sharks are interested in adding a veteran puck moving defenseman on the roster. And we saw, what happened when the Sharks had Erik Karlsson on the roster. But how do you install a system, your system, right? We don't know how much of the Sharks defense was David Quinn's system, how much of it was Ryan Warsofsky's system, how much of it was a blend, but how do you install a system that works for one? Players like Henry Thrun, Ty Emberson, who, Shakir Mukhamadullin, right? You're going to probably have potentially three defensemen who have played combined 1.5 seasons in the NHL between those three guys. With Henry Thrun being, and yes, they're going to have Jan Ruda and Kyle Burrows, and you hope Matt Benning's able to come back, and Vlasic and all these other guys, right? But how do you install a system that helps these young players play up to their strengths, and not putting goalies out to dry so often, or not leaving guys wide open on the weak side? And that, I think that's going to be the big thing is, again, we're trying to raise the Titanic here. It's not going to happen all at once, but do we see steady improvement? That's going to be, I think, a big theme for this season is steady improvement in different areas. And I think fixing the defense, and by fixing the defense, right, not leaving guys so wide open, not having the mental breakdowns that lead to guys just kind of going into, forward, just kind of being left in front of the goalie wide open, and just not playing in your zone so often. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenge for Warsofsky this year is you're trying to raise the Titanic. Yes, Celebrini and Will Smith, and there's plenty of exciting young players here, but this change isn't going to happen overnight. And how do you start to raise the Titanic for Ryan Warsofsky? So again, I'm super excited about this. I think Warsofsky is the right guy for the Sharks right now because of, I think, what he brings to the table when it comes to just his ability to connect, develop, and coach players. He's very personable. He's already got a relationship with a lot of these guys, and I think you're going to see a lot of these young players take a big step forward this year. So I'm super excited about Warsofsky. I think he's going to do a great job. So that's going to be it for me. We'll be back later Friday about lunchtime with another episode. So the long-awaited draft profiles that have been. It's been a week. Anyway, so we'll have one of those this week. We got 2 more planned for next week as well. So you get 6 episodes this week to enjoy. So we got Ben Jordan on. We're going to be talking all OHL guys. So plenty of fun stuff there. Our good friend Will Scouch, who's recovering from COVID. He was supposed to be on this week. We got him. We'll get him booked next week. He'll be so. We got a couple more guys. So plenty of good stuff coming. Yeah, we're 2 weeks from the drafts, guys. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from the draft. So make sure you're following wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until lunchtime Pacific time. Bye, friends.